Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, we're gonna look at just a pretty messed up one. So, Kevin and Lisa Knofel, that's not how I would have pronounced it either, took in a foster daughter, Sabrina Zunich. This is the gross part because, how do I put this? Kevin and Sabrina then started a relationship. And then they both decided that Lisa Knoefel, Kevin's wife, would be worth more dead than alive. This one is messed up on just so many, just so many levels. So let's get into it. On the early morning hours of November 16th, 2012, in Willoughby Hills, Ohio, a 911 call was made. It is disturbing, yeah, just be warned. Fair warning.
I have a female yelling on the phone. Someone else had the knife. Okay, this is your sister?
Yeah, she's doing my mom with the knife.
She's doing what to your mom with the knife? You need to take a deep breath for me so I can understand you.
No, I did.
In the house was 41-year-old Lisa Knoefel, 18-year-old Sabrina Zunich, her foster daughter, and Lisa's two biological children, 13-year-old Megan and 3-year-old Haley. The man of the house, Lisa's husband Kevin Knofel, was a truck driver and he just happened to be out of town that very night. The 911 call was made at about 1:15 in the AM. The caller was Lisa's 13-year-old daughter, Megan. When the police rocked up, Megan met them at the door, frantic, crying, saying that her sister Sabrina was stabbing her mother to death. When the police entered the home, Sabrina came out of Lisa's bedroom, covered in blood, and surrendered to the police, handing them a 15-inch knife that was absolutely dripping in blood. Sabrina didn't say a word, she was just crying. And in the bedroom they found, the scene of a struggle and Lisa's body stabbed to shit. And then also in the wardrobe they found the 3-year-old daughter Haley sobbing. Lisa had been pretty badly killed. Sabrina had stabbed her 12 times, cut 178 times, severed her carotid artery, stabbed in the lung, the eye, almost severed fingers. Brutal fatality. Yeah, no shit. Understatement of the year. But what the shit led to this? Well, there's a bit to go through, so let's go through it. Sabrina Zunich had lived with the Knofels for about a year and a half. She was a foster child. Born in 1994, her parents both suffered health issues, her dad dying in 2012 of a drug overdose, her mother having drug and alcohol issues, and she went to live with her granny at quite a young age. However, when she was caught stealing money from her granny for drugs and alcohol, you guessed it, the courts were like, yeah, you can't take care of her, we're sending her to the foster system, and she would eventually end up the Knofels. Lisa and Kevin Knofel had been married for about 6 years. Lisa was a social worker, Kevin a truck driver. They were a loving couple, friends described as destined to be together from the moment they met. Wow, never heard that one before. Marrying 1 year after they met each other. Both had been married before, having children from previous marriages. Lisa's 13-year-old Megan was from a previous marriage. 3-year-old Haley was Lisa and Kevin's. Lisa, however, felt she had so much more love to give, so 2 years after Haley was born, Sabrina Zunich came to live with them. Anyways, Sabrina fit in the Knoefel family like a glove. For a bit. I mean, she would eventually end up brutally murdering her foster mother for apparently Just no reason whatsoever. When the police investigation began, the who was pretty obvious. Hey, maybe it's the teenage girl walking out of the murdered woman's room, covered in blood with a knife. Who else could it be? Oh, I'm scratching my head. Oh, it's a real whodunit. The why? No one knew. Sabrina first told the police when she was brought in that she woke up that night with a migraine and she went to the master bathroom to get some painkillers for her noodle. Then, oof, she blacked out. Couldn't remember a thing. Jesus, lads, what happened? Missed it. I missed that part. Yeah, that old one. The police called bullshit on that pretty quickly, but Sabrina attorneyed up, zipped the lip, and that was that. For 9 months, she wouldn't give the police anything.
A Willoughby mother murdered in her own home.
Tonight, police say the woman's foster child is to blame. Authorities say Lisa and Knofel was stabbed to death. Her 18-year-old foster daughter is in custody tonight. But it was her 13-year-old biological daughter who tried to save her life. News Channel 5 Shay Harris is live on 5 in the newsroom with these details. New at 5:30. Shay?
Well, Lee, Willoughby police say 18-year-old Sabrina Zunich had been with the victim and her family for about a year and a half. Neighbors say they never would have suspected Zunich would do something like this. They describe her as a bubbly girl who was always happy.
And, well, it turned out that Sabrina was not alone in this. See, 9 months after Lisa's murder, Kevin Knofel was arrested. Kevin was charged with conspiring with Sabrina to murder his wife, and that he had been having an affair with his foster daughter when she was 17 years old, starting about 9 months after she moved in with the family, about 8 months before Sabrina killed Lisa. What a creep. This guy fucking sucks. How did they know what happened to Lisa Knofel? Well, straight from the horse's mouth. Sabrina told them everything. Maybe, you know, her conscience, guilt, or big old prison sentence will open you up real good. It turned out that Sabrina got along very well with Kevin, maybe a little too well, but did not get along at all well with Lisa, her foster mother. Lisa had become frustrated with how flirty Sabrina was with Kevin, and this began to impact the Knofels' marriage, with Kevin giving Sabrina all the attention she wanted. Sabrina came from a broken home. She had a rough upbringing. I mean, remember, she would steal money from her granny for drugs and alcohol. She just wanted some attention. Attention from a parental figure. And, well, she got it, but I don't think it was that kind of attention she needed. But, hey, banging your foster dad, that's one way to get it. God, that's disturbing. In fact, less than a week before Lisa's death, she had texted Kevin, "Cut the damn cord, spending too much time with her and less with your real family. Thanks a lot." Lisa was also really uncomfortable with Sabrina's relationship with her 3-year-old daughter, Haley. Sabrina kind of started almost treating Haley like it was her own daughter, and as if Sabrina was now the head of the papa mama, alpha mama. Now, it's important to note at this point, Lisa was a social worker. She worked with, dysfunctional families. And, according to her friends and family, she never once mentioned that she might be suspicious of something going on between Kevin and Sabrina. Though that doesn't mean she wasn't. Maybe she just, was too disturbing to vocalize, maybe. However, she was obviously concerned about Sabrina's relationship with 3-year-old Haley, and maybe with Megan too, and her relationship with the family as a whole. Not Ken and Kevin. So, a few weeks before what happened to Lisa happened, Lisa told Sabrina, "Pack your shit and get the fuck out of our house." That didn't end well for Lisa. Obviously. Sabrina then told police that Kevin had coerced her into doing it, that he too had grown to hate his wife. He told Sabrina he loved her. He was promising her that, they would be a happy little family once Lisa was out of the picture. And of course, as they always do, didn't Lisa have a big old life insurance policy? $785,000 to be exact. Something Kevin applied for hours after Lisa was pronounced dead. What a guy, did not waste much time on that. Sabrina told the police her and Kevin had been plotting getting rid of Lisa for months. First of all, thinking about shooting her, then second of all, thinking about maybe getting a hitman to do it for them. We'll come back to that. And then, thirdly and finally deciding on stabbing Lisa to death in her sleep, which honestly seems like the worst option out of the three of them. I mean, come on. Kevin would also just so happen to be out of town that night, so he wouldn't be, implicated in the brutal murder of his wife who slept beside him. Also because he was a cowardly, manipulative piece of shit who wanted Sabrina to do his dirty work for him. What a real piece of work. What a guy. So when they decided on, they originally wanted to make it look like a burglary gone wrong, a robbery. Sabrina was supposed to, take some jewelry, mess up the place, like somebody had broken in and killed her, a random attack or whatever. Which is incredibly stupid. Not bright sparks, either of them. Now, everything I just mentioned came from the mouth of Sabrina, and the prosecution took her word for it all. But when this would come to trial, what was fact and what was fiction? However, there were some facts as to what Kevin was doing after Lisa died. In the months that followed before Kevin was arrested, he started buying cars, campers, remodeling, spending like he had a hole in his pocket. So, once Kevin was arrested, Sabrina agreed to testify against him in return for a reduced sentence. Kevin was charged with conspiracy to commit aggravated murder and sexual battery relating to Sabrina.
I would advise the court that the defendant was entrusted with the care of a foster child and abused that trust by engaging in an illicit sexual relationship with that foster child. He conspired and acted in complicity with his foster child to murder his wife. A weapon was used during the murder of Lisa Knoefel, and that was a knife. Several firearms were found during the execution of a search warrant at the time of the defendant's arrest last Friday. And
where was that?
The Knoefel residence in Willoughby Hills here. The nature and circumstances of the crime, that this defendant engaged in discussions with Sabrina Zunich, who devised multiple plans to murder Lisa M. Knoefel in her bedroom while she was asleep. This defendant told Sabrina Zunich that Lisa M. Knoefel was worth more dead than alive. Kevin B. Knoefel and Sabrina Zunich agreed that Sabrina Zunich would kill Lisa Knoefel by stabbing her to death. The defendant directed Sabrina Zunich as to a specific knife to use to stab Lisa Knoefel. The defendant demonstrated how Sabrina Zunich should stab Lisa Knoefel and how to twist the knife into Lisa Knoefel's body. The defendant gave Sabrina Zunich specific instructions to stab Lisa Knoefel either in between Lisa's shoulder blades or in her neck area. This defendant discussed that Sabrina Zunich make the death of Lisa Knoefel look like a burglary. Specifically, it was planned that Sabrina Zunich would rummage through jewelry and leave a door partially open. This defendant instructed Sabrina Zunich to cut her own legs to make it look like Sabrina Zunich acted in self-defense. This defendant and Sabrina Zunich agreed that if Sabrina Zunich was apprehended by the police, Sabrina Zunich would say she did not remember what happened and would claim insanity. Sabrina Zunich's plan stabbed Lisa Knoefel to death.
The entire trial was based around, she never, ever would have done, murdered Lisa if she hadn't been manipulated by Kevin. She was bewitched by him. Kevin denied everything, because of course he did. Kevin Knoefel didn't know anything.
Fellatio and the digital penetration continued until they reached the next stage, that being sexual intercourse. The 41-year-old defendant and the 17-year-old girl. The plan that was eventually settled on was to stab Lisa to death, or Sabrina to stab Lisa to death.
Your job in this case is to be evaluating the evidence and determining what is fact and what is fiction. From our standpoint, the state's entire case is fiction. 8 left no stone unturned with the scientific evidence. You'll also note from the evidence that none of it implicates Kevin Knofel. Not one bit.
Now, while all of this was coming out, many friends and family were absolutely shocked, that there was an inappropriate relationship between Kevin and Sabrina. They said, they'd never seen anything that looked even remotely like that. But when it came to trial, a few people came forward saying they'd seen a couple of things which made them raise their eyebrows just a tad.
She moved toward sitting in his lap inside his legs.
What did you do with that?
I did a double take, kind of really.
The cell phone activity showed Kevin was texting Sabrina a hell of a lot more than he was with his wife, and that Kevin was desperate to visit Sabrina in prison just days after his wife was murdered. The real punch, though, against Kevin's defense, that he had nothing to do with anything, was a friend of Sabrina's named Autumn Pavlik. See, the problem with this case is that there was a huge amount of he said, she said. I mean, the prosecution was mainly relying on Sabrina, the word of a killer who brutally murdered someone and said she was manipulated into doing it. While there wasn't much evidence that Kevin was involved at all, other than him acting just a little bit weird, that his wife died and he didn't really seem to care. That's what the defense was saying anyway, while the prosecution was saying, Kevin, he manipulated this troubled girl into doing his dirty work for him to get his greasy paws on life insurance moolah.
I started to stab her. I just raised the knife up and went down on her.
Why is it that you could violently and brutally stab her repeatedly 178 times?
Because I was manipulated to do it.
By who?
Kevin.
But there wasn't really that much in the way of evidence, other than Kevin just being weird after the death of his wife he apparently loved so much.
The behavior of 43-year-old Kevin Knofel before and after his wife was murdered was a subject of testimony on the third day of Knofel's murder conspiracy trial. A corrections officer at the Lake County Jail testified that Kevin Knofel showed up at the jail on the day after his wife, 41-year-old Lisa Knofel, was stabbed 178 times in the couple's home by their foster daughter, 19-year-old Sabrina Zunich. The corrections officer says Knofel wanted to visit Sabrina Zunich and seemed irritated when he was told he could not see Zunich.
There was a little counter on the top, and he did put his hands on to talk to me. He says, "You do not understand, I need to see her."
Everyone from our agency in Children's Services came and met together.
Nicole Corbett was devastated when she learned that Lisa Knofel had been murdered by Sabrina Zunich. Corbett was Sabrina's caseworker and had recommended that the troubled teen be placed in the Knoefel home, despite a history of psychiatric problems.
And recall the incidents where Sabrina was hearing voices?
Yes.
You recall the incidents where the voices were telling Sabrina to hurt other people?
One time, yes.
After the murder of Lisa Knofel, investigators discovered evidence that Kevin Knofel seduced Sabrina Zunich and was having a sexual relationship with his foster daughter. The affair was a secret before the murder, and that's why the caseworker did not give it a second thought when she approved Sabrina's request to take a modeling class, recommended by her foster father, who had been taking photos of the girl.
So remember that hitman ploy Sabrina told the police her and Kevin had talked about? Well, hadn't Sabrina gone to a friend of hers named Autumn Pavlik, who Sabrina thought ran with a rough, tough crowd of ruffians, and wanted to ask, maybe, you know any people around here who might bang for $1? Autumn and Sabrina talked over the phone about paying the hitman by delivering drugs for him. And then Kevin came on the phone.
There was a phone call that we had. She had asked me if I was able to get her a hitman.
Could you tell if there were any other people in the room at the time?
Yes.
And how could you tell that?
I could hear the defendant in the background talking.
What did he ask you at that time?
Do you need me to take you to go run drugs?
Okay. And what was that in reference to?
The hit. Finally, I said, sorry, I can't help you. I don't want anything to do with it.
After the murder, Autumn went to the cops to tell them about this, and she then recorded a conversation with Kevin after Lisa's death.
The only thing that I'm worried about is that whole hitman thing. I mean, I know she went off and did it by herself, but with the whole hitman thing, I don't want to be sucked into it if she decides to open her mouth about it.
I honestly don't know. Like I said, she talked a big game about a lot of things.
She also talked with him while wearing a hidden camera, but nothing came of that.
You wanted the hitman to take care of Lisa or whatever, because she was worth more dead than alive to you. And so I was curious, what do I tell them?
The question she asked, he didn't answer.
Nothing has been proven. There's been no evidence. Nothing has happened at this point in time. The state has been in possession of the alleged co-conspirator for 7 months. They've had plenty of time to put their case together, whatever it may be. But the reality is they have not presented any evidence at this point.
Lisa herself was a social worker dealing with sex crimes and troubled kids, and she never saw anything, or at the very least, never said anything. Kevin was innocent, they said. Well, their defense, so it's their job to say that. There was no manipulation. Sabrina just hated Lisa, and when Lisa tried to kick her out of the house, Sabrina went nuts. However, Sabrina never ever changed her story.
I have a client who cannot express remorse because he wasn't involved. There are 3 victims in this case. The victims are Lisa Knoefel, Haley Knoefel, and Kevin Knofel. If the people at juvenile court and the social workers were upset with themselves, had they done their job, Sabrina Zunich never would have been placed in anyone's home, the Knofels or anyone else's. And there was adequate information in the record that all of those people had to have them reach that conclusion.
Kind of a rough upbringing for Sabrina, and I think it was obvious throughout the testimony as this case unfolded that there were some problems that were exacerbated by the actions of Kevin Knofel. So I think that's one factor that's clear. The second is the offender's relationship with the victim facilitated the offense, and along those same lines, Judge, that as the defendant, who was the foster father of Sabrina, he began right from the start to play her, and eventually it led to this sexual relationship and to his role in the murder of Lisa Knoefel.
The jury took 10 hours to deliberate, and after they convicted Kevin on all counts.
Mr. Knoefel, I have to tell you that I have great difficulty in this case. I realize that throughout this process, as your attorney has indicated, you have done nothing wrong. Your attorney has indicated that, has championed that cause for you. The jury listened to that, but the jury did not agree. The jury's verdict indicates that they believe that this murder would not have happened without your involvement, without your encouragement, without your actions, without your directions. Clearly the sexual offenses would not have occurred in the jury's mind without your involvement, your actions, your direction, and your participation. As such, you stand before me convicted of 11 offenses, 5 of them dealing with the murder of Lisa Knoefel, 6 of them dealing with the sexual battery of Sabrina Zunich. Therefore, the court has no choice in this matter but to begin sentencing.
He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. At sentencing, Lisa Knoefel's ex-husband, the father of their 13-year-old daughter Megan, he had some choice words for Kevin Knoefel. I think we can all agree with them.
I'd like to say, Lisa, we miss you, and you, Kevin, what a piece of crap you are.
Yes, Mr. Zunich, I realize your emotions are great, but I would ask that you please restrain yourself and just address.
You are a weak individual.
Objection, Your Honor. Mr. Zunich, continue.
Someone who thought they could be a man in a man's world.
Objection.
You had
The purpose of sentencing and hearing from the victims, Your Honor, is not to belittle the defendant.
I understand, Mr. Connick. We're going to let Mr. Zunich, and Mr. Zunich, I would just ask if you would just try to restrain yourself, please.
You thought you could do some heinous act that would take someone's life away from 2 little girls. And I hope, Judge, that you will give him the maximum sentence. Because my daughter and my daughter's sister think about their mother every day. And I sure hope that you think about what you did in jail. And I hope you rot in jail the rest of your life.
Sabrina also received a life sentence, but will be eligible for parole after 30 years. In February 2017, a judge awarded Lisa's two daughters, who witnessed the murder, $6.2 million in damages. Wow, what a batshit disturbing story that is. What a coward Kevin is, manipulating troubled teenager that is messed up already with what he was doing with her into doing his dirty work. Kevin Knofel getting his foster daughter to kill his wife with a knife. Kevin today still protests his innocence. He did not have inappropriate relations with his foster daughter. He didn't coerce this troubled girl into killing his wife. But it certainly seems like he did. And the jury seemed pretty confident of this too. Now this story is really weird. It's kind of like a movie. Like, it seems based or inspired by a movie. Sound kind of, if you can think of the movie, let me know. It just really kind of sounds kind of familiar. But if it is a movie, it's not a good one. Like, at all. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you, as always, real soon in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Mike out.